The sky in this picture is blue, but the sky is not always blue. And I decided I wanted to change that blue fabric to this more blue-gray fabric because it coordinates with the stripes that I'm going to use. I'm going to try to I fussy cut this so that I could get some of the blue in there for reflections of the sky, and it tends to be more gray than blue. And so I have this fabric that I don't iron my whole thing of fabric. I usually just press enough of the area for my pattern piece. But this, sometimes the back of the fabric gives you a lighter value and it's a better choice. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'm turning this over and putting my pattern there. I'm taking my pattern off of the blue, just peel it off, and then I'm going to, well, this is great, this just meets it there, but you don't have to worry about using a straight line. You can use any shape, or you can put your, because you don't have to worry about the straight grain of fabric. You can tilt this along so that we have enough surrounding the fabric that we could, you know, cut it out with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. But we could also put it this way, and then you can use the straight of grain. So when I can do that, I do it. But normally, you know, if that's the only fabric you had, you could just put it down anywhere, because the French fuse will act as a stabilizer for this. So that I'm going to do this, iron it down. You have to make sure your iron is hot enough to hold your pattern down without melting the wax into your pattern. Okay, my iron is on a cotton setting. You want to make sure that your iron is hot enough so that it's going to stick to your fabric, because this is the freezer paper is your stabilizer for placing your pieces and for turning back any edges. So you want to make sure that it adheres to the fabric, but you don't want the wax of the freezer paper to melt into there. Okay, I like to stand when I'm doing a lot of my work, and I wanted to show you my ironing board. My husband made this big board out of a 2x4 piece of plywood. You can go to Lowe's, they have some cutoffs this size. But then we cut the corners off so I didn't have any sharp corners. And this is just on a 4-foot ironing board that has an extension for my iron. And I find it very convenient, if I'm not working on great big pieces, to bring my cutting board to this ironing surface also, so I can iron on one side and then I can go ahead and cut some of these pieces out. All right, so this is my big board. This is what the backside looks. It's kind of heavy, but it's supported with my ironing board. All right, so these are leftover parts of the railing, or this vertical slats from our deck. And it's thick. They're like 3/4 by 3/4. And we just screwed these in. We had the right size screw, so it doesn't go all the way through. It goes through the 3/4 to, you know, this 1/2 inch board. And so we just screwed those down, and it's shaped in this kind of a V shape. The other thing I wanted to tell you is what we did is we just covered this with one thin layer of batting and then put a muslin over the top, and we just stapled this to our board to make a nice ironing surface. So, all right, so now when you slide this on, you just put it on with the V down here at the narrow end and slide it on, and it's very secure. So it makes a nice surface for ironing your 1/2 yard of fabric, and to use your cutting board on this nice height. Right. So now I can notice that my rotary cutter is dragging a little bit. It's not real sharp, and this is only one thickness of fabric. So I'm going to change my blade. When you start feeling that it's dragging or that you feel tension in your shoulders, it's a good time to replace your blade. And when I replace my blades, you know, I close the thing so you're not having your blade exposed. And then I'm very methodical. When I take this apart, I just lay these pieces down in the order that I take them off. What's important is this little washer there, and you notice that it cups up. Pay attention to how that is. So it cups up, and then you just push your screw out there, and you can see that the blade comes off. You can get all your fuzzies out of there, and the button stays on to your rotary cutter. You see, it doesn't interfere with changing your blade. And then I take a new blade. I'm putting this to the side. Be careful how you handle it. I often keep these extra packages that the blade comes in, and then use that for a used blade. And I'm gonna go mark this then. It says used, so my used blades are there, and keep that over there. And now we're gonna put this back together after removing the fuzzies. We'll put the blade down on top of that cover, and then we're gonna push the screw through there. Remember, that blade is very sharp, so be careful how you handle it. And then this little cup-sized washer is up like that, and then put the screw on. And you want to tighten it, but you don't want it too tight. So just kind of finger tighten it. Because this is no fun. We want to be able to do this for a long time, so you don't want to have your body hurting. And that's why, you know, changing your blade is a good idea. So to protect your body, standing when you're doing cutting is very good. And you want to be able to keep your rotary cutter and your magic button straight up and down. And when you're sitting, sometimes it comes at an angle. But by sitting up, that's why this ironing board, this big board on top of my ironing board, gives me a nice surface. It's a nice height for standing and doing your cutting. And remember, like I said, it's only one thickness of fabric, so you don't have to press down hard. As long as your blade is cutting, you know, you can just glide along there. So I wanted to show you that your rotary cutter can work for a right-handed or left-handed person. So we're switching from a left brain to a right brain, perhaps when you're a right-handed person and you're going to go ahead and cut on the left side. You just turn the blade around and you're following the button right along your freezer paper pattern. Another way to add height to your working table, you could just get bed lifters from someplace like Bed Bath Beyond. They have bed lifters in different height to raise under your table. But now this table has a flat leg on the bottom, and that is a clue that this is a telescopic leg. You have to have somebody to help push the buttons in, but then you can raise it up to a nice table height for working.